Hello, boys and girls. My name is Mrs. Mast, and Mr. Royens, Mr. Myers, and I are going to be speaking to you this week about the 6 traits of writing. Today's trait is ideas, and you should have already listened to or heard me read the story Saturdays and Tea Cakes. We're going to talk about how the author, Lester Laminack, uses details in his story to get his point across and to make his writing more vivid. So, you know, if Mr. Laminack wanted to, he could tell somebody quickly, hey, when I was a kid on Saturdays, I used to go to my grandmother's, we would eat breakfast, I would mow the lawn, and then we would have lunch and we would make tea cakes. And that's a nice story if you have a few minutes to tell a friend. However, he decided, because it was probably very special to him, he decided to put it in a book. So I want to talk about some details you might have heard in the book. I just want to go through and read a few pages that I have highlighted. Every Saturday, I coasted down our long, steep drive slowly, only enough to make the turn onto Thompson Street, then left onto Bell's Mill Road. Pedal, 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 past Mrs. Caulfield's house. Pedal, 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 around the horse pasture and up the hill past the cemetery where my grandfather was buried. Pedal, 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 past Mrs. Grace Owens' house and on up to Chandler's Phillips 66. What I like about this part of the book is the details Mr. Laminack decided to put into his writing was the journey that he had to take to get to his grandmother's house. And he used a lot of repetitive words. Pedal, pedal, pedal. He used pedal, 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 and he said he went past Miss Caulfield's house, and then he went past the horse pasture, and then up the hill past the cemetery where his grandfather was buried, which I expect was very special to him. And then pedal, 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 past Mrs. Grace Owens' house, and up to the Chandler's Phillips 66 station, which is a gas station. He didn't have to do this. However, I feel that the fact that Mr. Laminack used all these details in writing about Saturdays and tea cakes with his grandmother, it helped me to envision him. Like, I can close my eyes and I can think, oh, I could see him pedaling, going a little bit slowly so that he can turn onto Thompson Street, and pedaling past the horse pasture and past the cemetery, and then pedaling beyond that to go past Miss Grace Owens' house and then up to the Phillips 66 station. I like that because it gives me a nice visual image in my head when he talks about what exactly he did. Something else I want to highlight, I want to go to, is on about this page when he gets to Grandma's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 driveways and one last turn to the left. This was where my tires gave up their humming on pavement and began the crunching of gravel. Just before reaching Mama's back porch, I slammed on my brakes, sending a shower of tiny pebbles into her flowers. So again, Mr. Laminack could have just said, I drove to her driveway. She's 4 driveways down. I turned her driveway, parked. But he didn't. He chose to put every little detail about what he remembered as he went to Grandma's house. And I love that. He even talks about on this page, every Saturday, Mama was there sitting on her old metal glider, crick, crack, crick, crack, sipping a cup of red diamond coffee and waiting. She was waiting for me, no one else, just me. Again, that motion of the glider, it actually reminds me of my childhood when I'd see my mama, and we actually called my grandmother, she was from Kentucky, we called her Mama, and my grandfather was Papa. But imagining her sitting on her front porch, on the porch swing or a rocking chair, waiting. And again, he didn't have to say red diamond coffee, he could have just said sipping her coffee. But he wanted to add that detail to give the reader a more interesting picture in our minds. One more part of the story I want to highlight is when he is mowing the lawn. And you've already heard me say this maybe a couple times, but he starts out a lot of his pages with every Saturday. Every Saturday, I pulled the starter rope again and again while the lawnmower sputtered and spit. Every Saturday, I pushed the mower back into the garage, trudged to the back porch, and flopped onto the old glider. And he goes on, there's another, every Saturday she spread a cloth over the red countertop and scattered a fistful of flour across it, sending a cloud into the air. He uses some repetitive speech in his story because this was a very special event in his life. He did this every Saturday, and so by repeating that over and over, it helps the reader, helps you, helps me to understand this is something he did every Saturday. Every Saturday, it was just a very special day for him. So I want you to think about that, and I'm going to bring out this little light bulb we have that we're going to be using this year. And if you think about a light bulbs can be dim and they can be very bright. And we actually have words on here. It's called Bright Ideas. We want you to think about your writing when you're going to write a story. Like I said, Mr. Laminack could have written this story down in a few sentences, but he decided to add details. And what happens when you add details is it makes the bulb glow brighter. The icon we're going to be using for that this year is this right here. And you can see, I'm going to touch the screen. So you have your one idea, and then you have details, 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 details. We want you to think about that as you write. Let's say you're going to write about a time you went to Disney World. You know, you could tell me, hey, last summer I went with my family. We went to Disney World and I rode on Space Mountain, the teacups, and you can tell me that quickly. But when you're writing, we really want you this year to think about the details you're putting in your writer. We want to be able to visualize, maybe put ourselves in your story on your trip to Disney World. If you're going to write about the first time you learned to ride a bike, I would like to be able to visualize the details. I could tell you the first time I rode a bike, when I learned how to ride a bike, and it would actually be a very interesting story because I crashed into my neighbor's nice red truck, and I could, in my writing, I could put a big screech because that's what my bike sounded like as it was going against his truck, which he didn't appreciate. But that's a detail I can add in there so that you as the reader would be able to visualize yourself in my writing. So we want you to think about these things. So in Saturdays and Tea Cakes, some details Mr. Laminack put in towards the end when he's getting out the butter for Grandma. It's blue bonnet butter. He didn't just write butter, blue bonnet butter, which is actually a margarine. Slams on the brakes and sends gravel flying. It just lets you know that you can kind of see the gravel spraying across the driveway. Mix and mash when he's mixing the flour and the butter together. It just gives you a visualization of what he's doing with that. Sweet tea with her sandwiches. Again, Mr. Laminack could have just said tea, but he decided on sweet tea. So think about that as you're writing, as you begin writing in fourth grade, we want you to tell us your stories, share your life with us, but we want you to be very detail oriented in that. Because I want to envision myself going to the movies with you. You know, maybe there's a time you and your family went to one of your favorite movies. I want to be able to see that in my head. I want to feel like I'm there with you. And that's how I feel whenever I read this Saturdays and Tea Cakes book. I feel like I am with Mr. Laminack or with the young man that's in the story. So as you are working on your details in your writing, remember, add as many as you can, be very descriptive. Don't just say I had iced tea. It could be Snapple's peach flavored iced tea. We want you to use those details. Anyway, you will be learning the other 5 of the 6 traits for writing throughout this week and next week.